In this section, let's understand how to validate requests coming from the client to our server. So you saw that we have this endpoint right here. So API version 2 and then customers. And in here, the payload, we have these three fields. So name, password, and ID. So again, they reflect our customer right here. Now, if I go back in here, and what I want to do here is the following. Let me go ahead and just send a request where I'm going to remove the name and password. So I'm going to remove name and password and just send the ID. You can see that we have a 200 status code. And in here, if I open up the logs, you can see that we have customer and an ID 3 and then name equals to null, password equals to null. Now, usually this is not great because we don't want to be handling situations where the client sends us partial data. So we can actually enforce that on the client. So meaning that, so if I go back in here, we know for a fact that the client must always supply the name and password, because the ID, we can actually generate that on the server, right? So the client always must provide these two fields. So how do we enforce that on the server side? Well, we could do this a couple of ways. So we could actually inside of our controller. So in here where we have the post mapping. So inside this sends the request to the customer service. And in here, we could actually have some logic that checks whether any of those fields are null or empty. And then we could throw an exception, right? So we could do that, but we can do something better. So we can actually use a library from Spring Boot called Spring Boot Starter Validation. So to add this library, let's go ahead together and open up the pom.xml. So in here we have the pom.xml. And what we're going to do is, so remember we had this comment here for Jetty. So what we're going to do is let's actually add it after it. So in here, we're going to add a dependency. So dependency like that. And then the artifact ID will be Spring. And if I put this full screen, so Spring dash and then boot dash and then starter dash and then validation. Just like that, enter. And this will come from the Spring framework.boot, just like that. And there you go. So now we have this library. Now this is red for me. So what I'm going to do is open a project and then I'm going to right click in here on the POM and then go to Maven and then reload project. So this will resolve the dependencies. And there we go. So now we have this library right here that we can use. So next, let's go ahead and learn what this artifact can do for us.